Well, we all know what happened, and it says right at the top of that screen that Oklahoma City has won the NBA Finals. And as you can see, as I did put out that nostalgic intro, if you remember the Seattle SuperSonics, especially if you were old enough to remember it, especially for anyone that's Gen Z or millennials, I know the Gen X and the boomers were very well familiar with it. But I thought, knowing that Oklahoma won the NBA Finals, they were our former Seattle SuperSonics, I thought I'd bring in a little bit of like some kind of positivity that, let's bring some kind of like blast from the past to at least make us a little bit more happy. And also, I'm joined by Epic C Films as he is settling in. He'll be there in just about a few moments. But yes, this is the Rooftop Sports. As not only, as you know, that I am a Seattle Mariners fan, I'm also a Seattle SuperSonics fan. Been a huge fan pretty much, I'd like to say 2003. I kind of started watching back in 1998. But anyways, let's get Epic C Films onto the show. And how are we doing, my friend Epic C Films? It was only like 24 hours ago when we went to that Washington State fair to talk to the Cobra Kai crew.
Yes. So I am doing great.
Yes, that's great to hear because I think many Sonics fans would not agree with that, unfortunately, because our former NBA team did win the NBA championship, but it did take 7 games. So, you know what? I have this soda. Hey, look, I did a green soda. Doesn't have a nice touch? Doesn't that kind of?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna say, cheers to Indiana for their heck of an effort because Therese Halliburton really played his heart out. Pascal Siakam really played his heart out. And you know what? I'm not going to blame him for it. Cheers to Indiana. And most importantly, cheers to us Seattle SuperSonics fans. And I know how painful it is that our old NBA team had just won, which is why I'm here. And as you can tell, I completely changed my ticker. I changed my banner. Like, do you notice a difference on like everything that I put? Like, here's the thing. Like, I'm not even asking for donation money at all. Like, this is a show where I'm not asking for anything. Don't even use my SeatGeek promo code. And actually, I am mandating all of you to not put a single penny on this show because as much as I'm grinding for that kind of goal, I just don't think that this is a show to even ask for any of that kind of money. Like, it just doesn't feel right to do it. I think I'm just doing this show just to give Sonics fans an opportunity to express how they feel. And you know what? I will start with you, Epic C Films. How do you feel about our former Seattle SuperSonics, now known as the Oklahoma City Thunder, winning the NBA championship?
So I would have loved to see Indiana Pacers win it. I am not an Oklahoma City fan, but at the end of the day, these are such small market teams. Most people are not going to care. And for me, at the end of the day, I watch very little NBA. Like during the playoffs, I only really watched one full game, and that was with you.
Was that like game 6 of the NBA Finals?
Yes. And tonight, I watched like basically one quarter of the game.
And you just didn't feel any emotional investment, did you?
I just wanted Indiana to win, but that was the only investment I had because I'm not an Oklahoma City fan. But that's just who I am. But that's just how I feel because I was so tied to the Sonics back in the day that I don't want Oklahoma City to do well. But at the end of the day, it's like this doesn't really going to affect me much at all in my life, you know? And so I'm kind of like at that point where it's like, okay, are sports that important to me? I'd be, I'm really mostly happy now. Like in the sport I root the most for is actually football. I switched to basically a Seahawks fan.
Well, let's just turn our focus more into basketball. So,
yeah.
I like what you feel. I mean, you're one of the few Sonics fans that, although we are upset that we don't have a team still, we really shouldn't. I think the message that you're trying to put out, and that's the message I'm trying to put out as well, is we just cannot let Oklahoma City Thunder live rent-free in our heads. We just can't, because we have another task that is ahead of us. We've got a possible expansion announcement by Adam Silver. Well, right now it's just expansion meetings coming in sometime in July. So I really do think that this is the opportunity to at least like put our focus and all of our energy onto Adam Silver and the NBA owners and that meeting. I just don't think it really does any good for us Sonics fans to say, screw OKC. Clay Bennett took our team. Howard Schultz did this. Greg Nichols did this. Greg Nichols did that settlement. We should have had Judge Peckman at least to hold the Sonics to lead. At this point, it's been almost 20 years since that happened. So I'm in the position now where I'm all just focused on the expansion. Like, honestly, I just wanted this whole NBA Finals thing to end just so we can move on and look forward or maybe dread about the whole news about expansion. That's just where I'm at.
I have something to say. So here's the interesting thing. As a sports fan, who do you think got the better end of the deal? The Oklahoma City winning 1 championship in almost 20 years, or in 20 years, the Storm winning 3 championships for the city of Seattle? Did OKC or did Seattle get the better end of the deal?
I hate to say it, but based on the fact that more people just happen to watch the NBA, that's where it gets the attention. I have to say Oklahoma City. The NBA championship weighs more than WNBA. I see where you're coming from, that at least Seattle does have 3 championships. Now, I think it's actually 4, 2004, 2010, 2018, and 2020. 4 championships. I get it. Yeah. But unfortunately, it's the WNBA is just not the NBA. And this is coming from someone that had season tickets for the Seattle Storm.
The reason why I said 3 was that since since the teams broke up. The 2004 one was when they still were together, remember?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. So, but that's an interesting argument. I get where you're coming from. That's like, yes, NBA matters more and it's a bigger deal because more people watch it and there's more backing behind it. So I get where you're coming from and so like that. But hey, we still have something to brag about. We have 3 championships.
We do, but
yeah.
I mean, I'm in a position now where it's like, Adam Silver, can we get our expansion team? I know you're talking about how great of a market we are, how much you're saying that we're going to have expansion talks, but all I'm going to say is actions speak louder than words. Now, you got to actually do it, and I think this is actually an opportunity for us Sonics fans to actually get behind it, like put it out on social media. Another idea I have, and I think the first step we should actually do is, I'm just going to go right to it. Lenny Wilkins is actually going to have a statue unveiled, or whatever you want to call it, at Climate Pledge Arena on Saturday. I haven't gotten the exact time yet, but I'm going to keep everyone updated every single day about it. But I think us Sonics fans should at least show up to the statue unveiling, because I think with a significant statue like that being unveiled, I think that gives us a great opportunity for us Sonics fans to like show up. And plus, it's on a freaking Saturday. Like, you should totally go on a Saturday. Like, I would totally do that. So that way we can show the world and the NBA that we still care about bringing the Sonics back. And I'm just going to go into the comments. So we got It's BDS. That intro brought me back. Yeah, I love that intro. Daniel Barry says, go OKC, yo. Well, that's who you are, and congratulations. FOKC, I can't blame you for it. They didn't earn it. I can see where you're coming from because Therese Halliburton was injured and controversial ref calls. That's from what I heard from the game. If only we had Sam Presti earlier. I know. If only Howard Schultz knew who Sam Presti was, fired him, and brought in Sam Presti a little bit earlier. Yeah, I agree. It's coming, but we have to wait until 2028. So, Chris, do you have any kind of sources or anything like that where we do have the NBA to look forward to? I mean, at this point, if we're waiting until 2028, as long as we have the announcement, I'm fine waiting 3 years. I'm okay with that. But if it's about Adam Silver saying something like, "Oh, well, we got to wait until other owners agree to it," I'm not okay with that. But if we have an expansion in place, just give me the date and I will look forward to it.
So an interesting thing to note is the top four teams in the WNBA for attendance are the Indiana Fever, the New York Liberty, the Las Vegas Aces, and the Seattle Storm. Two of those cities, Indiana and New York, already have NBA teams. So if you're just thinking about the markets that don't have NBA teams in the WNBA, they're still doing really well. The Storm this year are averaging over 11,000, just over 11,000 attendance.
I mean, it helps when they're a good team. And the one thing I will say that I
and
guess having a good showing of WNBA may help because Draymond Green made up a really great point. When I think you may have saw that video where Lisa Leslie and Draymond Green and LeBron James were on the same room. Did you ever see that video?
No.
Well, there was that video where Draymond Green was like, or no, Lisa Leslie was like, "Hey, if the NBA can just put a little bit more money into the WNBA, not go to the casinos," and then Draymond Green just cut him off. And actually, you know what? Maybe I'll just show that video. Maybe I should. I'm gonna go ahead and find it while you say what you gotta say.
So what's interesting about this is you look at the three worst teams for attendance in the WNBA are Atlanta, Dallas, and Washington. And guess what? The cities of Atlanta, Dallas, and Washington all have NBA teams.
Yeah. Well, before we get into it, I'm gonna show this video. What I'm saying is, it is a good thing that we do have a good attendance of WNBA, not only because, it's the only basketball really to watch other than UW and that Seattle SuperHawks team, but also majority of NBA fans or WNBA fans are guess which fans they are. Majority of WNBA fans are actually NBA fans. Mm-hmm. So, and then here's that point that Draymond Green showed or talked about, and I'll show it right now.
Okay.
If it's one thing that I don't want to say change, that you feel that can help the WNBA's game out.
Help the game out. Okay, so I think the game is looking great. I think it's evolved great. I believe that players are more talented, faster. You can see they're getting the individual training, ball handling skills, shooting. The game is phenomenal. I thought they're playing at a high level. I'm very proud of them. I support the WNBA still. I will always, obviously we'd love to have Brittany back home. That's important.
For sure. Shout out BG.
Shout out to BG. She's never, far from our thoughts, but the WNBA is rocking. What could we have more? I mean, I just think, from a salary standpoint, it'd be great for the women to be able to make more money. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of hard work. I think I saw something that said one player that makes maybe $12 million on the NBA team could cover the whole WNBA salary.
Yeah, that's insane.
So that's kind of crazy. And again, we're what, 26 years young. So it's not like we're comparing ourselves to the NBA, but I do feel like the pay gap would be something that, we could just take a donation around the NBA. Maybe one night y'all don't go to the casinos.
I have something on this though, because it pisses me off. It pisses me off because I don't think there's anyone in America that supports the WNBA more than NBA players.
100%.
The NBA players support the WNBA
the most.
More than we probably support the fucking NBA. And it bothers me.
Yeah, so Draymond Green really had to put Lisa Leslie in her place. That it is a fact that majority of WNBA fans, complete it for me, are
NBA fans.
Yep, including me. So it's not. I think it's a great idea too. That that's another thing to see, that majority of that we do see a good attendance numbers with the WNBA. I mean, the Seattle Storm is a good team, but I do want to focus on this whole NBA thing and getting the expansion team, because what does Seattle have? Seattle has the arena. Seattle has the fan base. I mean, merchandise. constantly is still being sold. Sonics merchandise is still sold. I want to see like how much the merchandise gets sold every year. How much Sonics merchandise
Okay,
gets
so I'm
sold each year.
because what I'm looking at is I'm looking at teams. Let's see. So let's see what was it last season. Let's see, and let's see averages. What's an interesting thing about it is where are the Trailblazers? The Trailblazers, which are in the Northwest, their attendance on average is 13th in the NBA out of out of 30 teams. So you're talking about they get about just over 18,000 fans per attendance per game. So that's not bad, even for a team that's some people say isn't as big of a market as Seattle. It's still getting 13th with being a bad team. The Trailblazers right now. See that the Trailblazers have bad attendance, so they're not a great team, but they're still getting decent attendance.
I did look up data that Sonics merchandise, according to a store in Simply Seattle, they sell $1 million worth of Sonics merchandise every single year. So the name of the Sonics is still very strong. Like the NBA is still clearly making money out of Seattle SuperSonics nostalgic name, which is why I think the nostalgia, just like the NBA brought back NBC, because I think they totally brought it back for its name and its music. But also, they're still making I think the whole Sonics name is a good selling point on why expansion may happen by July. But the thing is, we don't know exactly when those meetings are. The only thing we got is Adam Silver. All he really said was he's going to have a meeting with the owners in fall.
So
yeah.
So I have an interesting thing to note here is, do you think the Thunder get better attendance than the Trailblazers?
They do. I would think they're a top 10 easily.
Nope.
Where is there
worse? The Thunder are actually 23rd for attendance. They're like 900 fans less a game than the Trailblazers.
Really?
So think about that. Even though they had a great season.
Well, they got the last laugh, so they got their championship. So, I mean, congratulations to them. I mean, the thing is, I can't hate Oklahoma. I just can't. Like, you got to give credit to Sam Presti for building that team. Do you know who is the team to really blame for Oklahoma winning the NBA championship? Guess which team that is?
Denver Nuggets.
Wrong.
Who?
Keep going.
I don't know. I'm trying
to think. The Los Angeles Clippers, because did you know, remember when they traded for Paul George? Here's what the Clippers gave up. They gave up Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who is now their franchise player, and 5 first-round picks, and one of them became All-Star Jalen Williams. So maybe not so much hate Oklahoma for it. If you really want to hate, it's the Los Angeles Clippers. And who is the owner of the Clippers?
Steve Ballmer.
And where is he from?
Well, he worked for Microsoft. I don't know if he's from Seattle, but he worked for.
And where is Microsoft?
In the greater Seattle area, yes. Mm-hmm.
So technically, whose fault is it? It's technically Seattle's fault because a guy named Steve Ballmer from Seattle signed off on arguably the worst trade in NBA history, aside from that Brooklyn Nets, Boston Celtics trade. Mm-hmm. I'd say this one's up there.
Yeah. But what's really interesting about these stats and about certain things about attendance and bringing in fan bases is one of the things is it depends on what size your stadium is, but because some stadiums are slightly bigger than others, some are slightly smaller, but also what is that your record doesn't always determine how much attendance you get. You could have a worse record than some other team, but get a higher attendance than a team that has a better record. That's not correlated. So one of the things that the Sonics fans, and they've been showing lately, is remember during the preseason, they have preseason games. So they have preseason games in Seattle.
Yes, I'm aware of that. Yep.
Yeah, and if those get good attendance, that shows that is actually a sign for NBA wanting to be here. Sometimes what they'll do is they'll have NCAA tournament March Madness games here. If those get good attendance, you see that there's still a viability for that. Just like I said, the Storm, there's multiple different basketball events throughout the year that we still get. If we have high attendance for those or great attendance for those compared to other cities, all of a sudden they'd be like, well, why don't we bring a team back here? Because we care so much about it. Look at, if you're just thinking about Portland alone, which is a smaller market than us, can still get 13th best in the NBA. Wouldn't Seattle do better than that? Wouldn't Seattle be top 10? Easy.
Yeah, I mean, let's look at Seattle's attendance back in 2006. I'm going to go to NBA attendance. 2006
was it 2007, I think, was their last year.
No, 2008 was their last year, but 2007 was the last year before the relocation.
2008? Wasn't 2007, 2008 was last year?
That was their last year. In terms of attendance capacity, because you got to go by capacity. You can't just go by numbers. I think the number itself is unfair. I think you have to go by capacity. The Seattle SuperSonics were actually 12th in the NBA. They actually did better than the Portland Trailblazers. Their attendance, Portland Trailblazers, was 82. Seattle SuperSonics was 93 in attendance. But then when you go to 2008, now to be fair, that was their final season in Seattle. That's when everything was hopeless. They were 20th with a 78%. But at that point, that's when everything was hopeless. That's when everything seemed to be over. And then, but Kevin Kirby goes, at least the Mariners pounded the Cubs. That is true. What's the injury on Halliburton? It was a torn Achilles. And unfortunately, that may have killed Indiana's chances to win the NBA championship and to prevent the Thunder from winning the NBA championship. Yeah. NCAA gets good attendance in Spokane for the tourney. So, yeah, it's true. Seattle is a strong basketball market. I think we can all agree with that.
Yeah. And that's the interesting thing is like, even like the Sonics, I bet if you go through history, what would be really interesting to see in history is, did the Sonics always average more attendance versus the Trailblazers? If they always did, then they are the better market, you know? And so if you think that your bare minimum is better than the Thunder, than the Trailblazers, if you're doing better than the Trailblazers, and you think about this, okay, well, if your attendance is always been better than the Trailblazers, that's going to be an interesting fact to see if that is history, if that's history. So that means that if they're getting like 13th right now, or they're getting like something like middle of the pack attendance for their games, we should be getting better than that. So we should at least be almost in the top third of the league, which would be top 10 almost of the league. And so there is a viability if you assume that is always right. But you can't always assume that, but it's like, you know. So I would assume that we would actually do better. And then on the other hand, our attendance potentially would be better than the Thunder's attendance. So then that's a whole other can of worms.
Reese Beast, you have to. He's also a Mariners fan, by the way. OKC. They did it, Roof. Indeed, they did it. And Reese Beast, if you would like to come on the show and talk about it, you can express your thoughts on your excitement. Or maybe you can come back to the light side of the force and say, oh, man, the Thunder won the NBA championship, and I hope Adam Silver gets us an expansion team. Ah! Mm-hmm. And plus, here's the actual Seattle SuperSonics reaction to, Thunder winning the NBA championship. I think that's about accurate. But, yeah, let's see where we at.
Well, the other interesting thing that people were talking about is like how less viewers there's been this year. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, NBA viewers have been declining in general because the quality of the league has declined, especially with that in-season tournament. I mean, I don't want to go too much into the tournament because I want to make this all about the Seattle SuperSonics. And yes, I know, Reese Beast, they did win today. I know. It was amazing, the Cubs, but this is now about the Seattle SuperSonics. And, Epic Sea Films, why don't you tell me about I want to hear that Patrick Ewing memory again.
Okay. So So I have a lot of Sonics memories and stuff like that, and I think like our team was we always had this great underdog mentality that always was still kind of known around the league, because some teams are not well known. But one of the stories was one year the Patrick Ewing actually came to the SuperSonics. It was like his last year of his career. He came and played for us, and so I was at a game during that final season of Patrick Ewing. And what was so cool about that was that I actually got to go behind the actual near the locker rooms. I got to go to behind the stadium seating actual area, and I actually got back there and was actually able to get some of the more of the harder to get basketball players' autographs. But one that was really, really tricky was that I saw Patrick Ewing, and he was like walking up the ramp towards a car, and I was trying to basically hunt. I was trying to run after him to see if he would give me his autograph, but he was so busy focused on just getting in his car and getting out of there that I don't think he really noticed me. And what happened was I was chasing him, and he took off, and I couldn't get his autograph. But that same day, the one that I was so happy I got an autograph was for Gary Payton, because Gary Payton rarely gave autographs. He was one of the ones that wasn't like some of the other players that were on the team, and so. But that was kind of a really cool story to see, to have, because it's it's interesting to see how different players react to the whole situation of the autograph.
So wait, so you got Patrick Ewing's autograph, right?
No, I got Gary Payton's, but not Patrick Ewing.
You got Patrick Ewing's autograph.
Remember I told you I didn't get his autograph? I chased after him to try to get his autograph, but never got it.
But Gary Payton gave it to you.
Yes.
Okay.
That's a rare one to get.
Yeah, well, speak of NBA merchandise and autographs. You know what? This is an opportunity for me to express and give my, what's it called? Merchandise? Yeah, I'll do that right now. I'm going to show everything I've got with my Sonics memorabilia.
Yeah. Well, what I'm saying is that I think that if they bring the Sonics back and maybe add another team, would that bring more buzz to the league? Is this a good? So what I'm trying to say is that is this a good opportunity for the league to inject some more life into the league? Do you think expansions are a good way to inject life into a league and bring more viewership back to the actual NBA?
Well, it depends who's being expanded to, right? Because the two favorite markets are Seattle and Vegas. Vegas has been a very move to market. Like the real estate market's been exploding like no other. Seattle's still a very strong market. Like despite the buzz about Seattle being not so much of a great city anymore because of all the issues around, which I'm not going to say specifically, despite the fact that the population is at a net negative. Despite that, people are still coming to Seattle. Like the sports turnouts are fantastic. Seattle Storm has great attendance. Seattle Mariners, good attendance. Seattle Seahawks, great attendance. Seattle Sounders, great attendance. Remember that Seattle Superhawks game we went? Did you think the attendance? I thought the attendance was actually pretty good.
Yeah, for that league, it was good attendance. Yes.
That was great attendance. Oh, now let's go over my memorabilia. So here's my autographed Shawn Kemp action figure. The only thing I didn't do is I didn't get this thing authenticized or whatever it's called, but I don't really care. I'm keeping this for the rest of my life anyway. But yeah, Shawn Kemp. I actually met the guy like 3 times. This one was a tough one, but Gary Payton, he didn't even want to talk to me at all. He was like, yep, just signing it. I actually felt bad for those two because they were placed to give autographs literally at the last second. So not exactly. I feel bad for now to think about it. All right, let's go over some more Sonics memorabilia while some of us fans are quote venting about.
Yeah. Well, what's also interesting about the attendance thing is that even the Mariners, who people say don't have great attendance, is still 19th best in their league out of 30 teams. That means we're still 11. We're 19th. There's still 11 teams worse than us. So you could, depending on where you want to take that information.
Shawn Kemp rookie card.
Yep.
Not signed, of course. So, but it's a rookie card. Then I got a Seattle SuperSonics versus San Antonio Spurs. This was when Ray Allen hit that 3-pointer. And you know what? I'm going to see if I can find that 3-pointer. Because I think that'd be cool to play. Ray Allen versus the Spurs. Let's see if I can find it. I found it. All right. I was at this game, and this was a very memorable game. And here it is. And I don't care about copyrights. If they want to copyright my butt, whatever.
This play, even though they don't have time out to draw something up, they got to run something that they're comfortable with to get themselves a shot.
Luke on the baseline will loop it and bounce to Pedro. Coming to get it is Allen off the pick. Looks at the clock, fires a three. Got it! He hit that.
You're muted.
I don't want to get that's all I'm going to show because I don't want to get the copyright thing all blah blah, you know. Whatever. So that was the 3-pointer. It was amazing. And the Sonics actually won that game. And that was against a 63-19 San Antonio Spurs. And that was also when the Sonics were struggling that season. So that was actually, oh my gosh, that was my second to last Sonics game I ever went in my entire life. The last one I went was when I saw Ray Allen hit his 262nd 3-pointer, which was actually the season record. No, the single season record at the time. And guess who broke that record?
Who? Kevin Durant?
Nope.
What, Stephen Curry?
He broke that record in 2013.
Yeah.
I'm trying to see what other memorabilia tickets I do have. Now these are all just tickets.
But just thinking about like all this nostalgia and all the Sonic stuff and everything coming back to it is that like one of the things to think about is how far it stretches and stuff like that. Because you think about it, we have the whole like a lot of the Northwest. Even if you keep going like east, even like we're talking about Spokane fans, people from Spokane and even from like Idaho potentially would be Sonics fans. Who would they support more than us? Besides, the only other team would be the Trailblazers.
Yeah, and I can't even cheer for the Trailblazers. It just doesn't feel right.
It's hard because the only reason why I rooted for them when when the Sonics left, guess who I rooted for?
Portland Trailblazers.
And the only reason why I rooted for them was because of Brandon Roy.
And then
it wasn't for Brandon Roy.
And then once his knees went down and betrayed him, you're like, that's it.
And then my interest in the NBA started fading after Brandon Roy. So he kept me around and interested because I still liked how he had a local connection tied to the city of Seattle, but also was playing for a Northwest team. Because if he played for some really weird offbeat team that I didn't like, I might not have been as attached to it. But because he played for Portland Trailblazers, I still had some kind of connection, even though I used to not like them. He got me into them. So it's kind of like this interesting push and pull.
Minnesota Timberwolves versus Seattle SuperSonics. That was Kevin Garnett's just out of his prime. We're talking about Timberwolves, Kevin Garnett. Here is Carmelo Anthony before he got into his prime. That was the Denver Nuggets versus Seattle SuperSonics. And I think that's all I really... Oh, there's more. Houston Rockets versus Seattle SuperSonics. Tracy McGrady and Yao Ming, Houston Rockets. And then here was another one when he got injured. Dallas Mavericks. There was that one.
The ironic one that you showed the Timberwolves one, which ironically is that after Brandon Roy left the Portland, he went to the Timberwolves for 2 years.
No, it was only like 10 games. And
well,
anyways,
he got a 2-year contract, but then basically he only played like 10 games, like you said. Yeah,
because his knees just wasn't doing it for him. And
did you know that he went on eventually and became a high school coach for Nathan Hale in Seattle, which was
and I think he coached the likes of Michael Porter Jr., who plays for the Denver Nuggets.
Yeah, so such a small world, how things kind of connect.
Oh, he played basketball at Green Lake with Brandon Roy. Yeah, it's that. Remember when I was showing off that NBA Street game out in Green Lake, Seattle? That's exactly where it was. And I've been to that bathroom. It was disgusting. All I can say was someone didn't know how to use a toilet. That's all I can say. It was gross, but that's all I'm going to say. That's it. Now, I want to go on a more deeper thing. Now, he's at Garfield, by the way. That's what he says. The ironic thing about the Sonics leaving Seattle, which as much as that was I would like to say that was like a top 5 worst day of my life, losing the Sonics. But there is one ironic thing out of it that came out of it. I got the opportunity to help out with the Soto Arena. Remember how much I was very rampant about that whole Soto Arena thing? I think I talked about it like almost every day. And when I was in class, I was like always on my phone, like refreshing for Sonics updates. And so because I got the opportunity, I got to meet really cool people. Like I got to meet my friend Nelson. He's a very passionate Sonics fan, but he moved to Houston with his family because I guess cost of living in Washington is just too much. Then we got to meet Brian Robinson. Remember Brian Robinson, who you met with a couple of times at a Storm game and that Special Olympics game?
Yep.
There's that. I got to meet the Sonics Gate guys who made the Sonics Gate documentary. Remember the Sonics Gate movie?
Yep.
I got to meet those people. And I got to be a part of that Soto Arena where I went to City Hall testifying of like how much I really wanted the Sonics to come back. I got to know about the local politics. So although, and I remember Sonics guy, the big guy in the afro, he was always out and about.
Yes.
I got to meet him too. And he is the most passionate and positive person I have ever met. And devastatingly, I am so crushed that he passed away. He passed away in 2021, and I am still crushed to this day that he doesn't get to see the Sonics coming back to Seattle. Now Kevin Kirby's going off like a something. Boycott Starbucks. So wait, boycott Sonics. Oh, you meant boycott Starbucks. So if they approved Soto Arena, we would have an NBA team right now. It was not Starbucks. It was actually the Port of Seattle that shot it down. If you remember the Port of Seattle and their politics, where they arguably colluded with the city to make sure that arena didn't happen, Port of Seattle were the bad guys. And I was a part of, it, of that controversy.
Have you ever seen the movie Full Court, the Spencer Haywood story?
I haven't seen it, but all I know is Spencer Haywood is the first NBA player to come out of high school, and he actually sued the NBA and took it to Supreme Court. So the NBA finally had to cave in and go, okay, Spencer Haywood, you can play right out of high school, and it turned out to be a great move for him. Howard Schultz sold the Sonics and owns Starbucks. Well, yeah, that's unfortunate that he sold the team to Oklahoma City, and I heard there's like a lot of backstory on all that happened, and who knows, maybe someday someone will expose that story about what really went down with the whole Howard Schultz selling that team to Clay Bennett. And Epic Sea Films, actually, what was your initial thoughts when you saw that the Sonics got sold to a guy named Clay Bennett from Oklahoma? Did you think that he was actually going to keep the team here and build the stadium, or did you actually know he was going to take the team to Oklahoma day one?
Well, when I heard the talks about the team, I could kind of tell that he wanted to move. He wanted to move the team because, like a person from Oklahoma City, why would you want the team in a different city than where you actually live? So I kind of felt it in the back of my mind and stuff. Like the city should have fought harder for the team to stay here, but they didn't. So, it is what it is. Now we have to deal with the ramifications of that and stuff.
Oh, yes, Kevin Kirby. I have seen that video. You know what? Do you want to see a video where Howard Schultz got harassed? And I was the one supposed to be saying, no, we got to be positive. But you know what, Kevin Kirby, for you, I will show Howard Schultz getting absolutely harassed by some random dude, which, by the way, he still has yet to be seen in public since. But yeah, I'm going to see if I can find that video. There's a possibility they may have taken it down. Oh, no, I think they took it down. They took it down. They took it down. Kevin, I hate to say it. They took it down.
So I have an interesting story about that Full Court, the Spencer Haywood story movie, because I actually went to the premiere of that movie at SIF. Seattle National
Oh
Film
wait,
Festival.
I found it.
And
But
and the interesting thing about that movie was that there was a Lenny Wilkins there, and I think it was it Slick Watts I sat next to at the actual premiere of that movie. So that was actually really cool.
Well, here's the video. You ready to see this video where Howard Schultz got harassed by a Sonics fan in Costco, Issaquah?
Yep.
Here it is.
And what happens when the producer of the documentary Sonicsgate tries to get a copy of Starbucks CEO and former Sonics owner Howard Schultz's new book? Tonight, we've learned during the book signing today for Starbucks CEO Howard Schultz at Costco in Issaquah, store security and police ejected multiple Sonics fans from the event. We got this new video tonight from Sonicsgate.org. Adam Brown, the producer of that documentary that showed the team's departure from Seattle, was removed from the line and escorted out the building. Costco officials didn't say why Brown was removed. Brown tonight says his intention was to get a copy of Schultz's book signed and give him a copy of the documentary. Schultz sold the Seattle SuperSonics to Clay Bennett, who moved the team to Oklahoma City in 2008.
Yeah, well, that was a thing. Well, anyways, like Molly Anderson, I'm willing to answer this question. I'm guessing that Howard Schultz is the Judas of Seattle and not Clay Bennett. It actually gets worse than that. So, are you ready for a quick summary on this? A quick history lesson for everyone. And Molly Anderson, are you ready for a quick history lesson? I think you'll want to hear this. So, hear me out. So, first, Clay Bennett buys the team in 2006. He comes up with some BS drawings about, oh, yeah, here's my arena design for Renton. He tried to take it to the state or the city and the state. Obviously didn't happen because they knew that they were not going to. I mean, Clay Bennett knew that it wasn't going to happen, but hey, at least he went to the state and was like, hey, here's my proposal. Yeah, never happened. So he was looking to relocate in 2007. And it turns out that he actually offered $21 million or something to break the lease in Key Arena, because Key Arena, starting in 2007-2008 season, there was still 2 years left on the lease in Seattle. So Greg Nichols, the mayor of Seattle, he actually tried to sue Clay Bennett to hold them to the lease, which honestly, did you find it necessary? I don't know if there was anything necessary about holding someone to a lease, like suing to hold them to the lease, because there was already 2 years left in the lease. So did you find that lawsuit necessary? And my thing was, I think that it was all about, I think it was just a publicity stunt on that they did the suing. So I don't know. Greg Nichols, the mayor of Seattle, tried to hold them to the lease, hold Clay Bennett to the lease. So there was that lawsuit. And the funny part was, Greg Nichols was being asked to testify, and he did a horrible job testifying for the Seattle SuperSonics to stay in Seattle. But nonetheless, Judge Peckman, who was the judge at the time, she was to make a decision on whether Seattle stays to the lease, which probably would have happened, or had Clay Bennett won, he would get 1 more year, because Seattle would just appeal and get 1 more year for 2008-2009 season. But guess what happened, Epic Sea Films? Guess what happened? Was there ever a decision?
No.
Nope. Because Greg Nichols, mayor of Seattle, was like, actually, you know what? Give me $45 million, Clay Bennett, and you can take our team, break the 2 years of the lease, and you can just take our team away. Oh, and it gets better. Are you ready for this?
What?
Guess who signed off on the shared history? Because when you see on ESPN, sometimes you're going to see that, oh, Oklahoma City Thunder did this for the first time since 1996.
Yeah.
Guess who signed off on that? Who was the
Greg
last
Nichols?
one? He signed off on shared history. Now, the good news is Clay Bennett at least let us keep our banners, our logos, and our and our banners, the championship trophy, that is still in Seattle. So he was nice enough to at least keep it there. He didn't take it with him because he wanted to build his own legacy. Cool. But why the shared history, Greg Nichols? So yeah, Molly Anderson, I hope that clears things up on who are the villains. It's basically everyone. Oh, it's better. Before that, before the sale with Howard Schultz, he went to the state possibly looking for Key Arena remodel money out of the state. The Speaker of the House, Frank Chop, the crazy thing is, the Speaker of the House has almost just as much power as the governor of Washington. So here's what happened. He actually brought David Stern on his side to try to testify and try to help Howard Schultz get that $220 million subsidy for Key Arena. And this is what Frank Chop says. We are not subsidizing Ray Allen's contract. So, of course, unfortunately, that rubbed David Stern the wrong way on how he felt about Seattle and their atrocious politics. Now, let me go to more comments. Does A-Rod have ties to Minnesota? I thought he already owned that team as a minority owner. Yeah, we should have been the Seattle SuperSonics. I know. I hear you. Kevin Kirby. I think it's funny Renton doesn't build an NBA arena, but they built the VMAC. Yes, they did. They at least built the VMAC because guess where the Seahawks practice facility was before that? I think they practiced all the way in Eastern Washington. I don't know if Ballmer did offer more money. He paid $2 billion for the Clippers. My question is, where was Steve Ballmer back in 2006? Why didn't he pay for it? I don't know. But as we are going into 45 minutes, I mean, I don't know, Epic Sea Films, do you have any more thoughts on the NBA Finals and the Pacers run, in your opinion, or you don't really have much to say?
I think the Pacers had a great run, and they put a lot of effort into it and stuff. I think what's going to be interesting to see is this transition of the NBA from the older superstars that we had, the big, maybe the big 1+4. The big 1+4. Because, there's almost 5 big names, and now there's not really a big name. And as you think about it, it's most of the players that people can name are one of the 5 old players in the NBA, which would technically be most likely. If you could name a player, people would say, oh, do you know? They might know LeBron James, Stephen Curry. They might know Kevin Durant. But beyond those 3, maybe, is there anybody else that people really know? Maybe there might be 2 other ones I'm missing. But beyond those ones, those are kind of the main staples. And they're getting old and about to retire. So who's going to take that mantle is going to be the next interesting question. And especially, can OKC repeat? And will Indiana come back to the finals next year? It's going to be really interesting to see. One of the things we saw this offseason was, and we saw this even last year, is how healthy is your team during the right time of the year? That matters a lot.
I guess so. Well, I don't really have much to say. I mean, I hope let's hope for Therese Halliburton to have a speedy recovery because Achilles injuries, I think arguably, what do you think is worse? Achilles injury or an ACL injury? I think Achilles is worse.
So it depends on how severe the injuries are. If they're minors versus like a minor fracture or a minor thing versus a full-blown thing, it'll take longer to heal. I think one of the worst injuries I've ever heard of was the Alex Smith injury, with his leg, where he got an infection. If you get an infection on top of an injury,
I think he almost died from that too.
Yeah, it took 2 years for him to come back or something like that from that thing, but he still was able to come back. But if you get an infection in your inner thing, and then anything that requires surgery will take a longer recovery because of the healing of that. So those are 2 things I would say that if you can avoid infections and avoid surgery, then you can it might be a little bit easier for you to come back from it and it won't be as bad. And so hopefully, because it didn't look like it was that bad of an injury, what happened to him, No,
it was a broken leg. It was a brutal injury. That's what I remembered.
No, not the Alex Smith one. I'm talking about the Tyrese Halliburton one. Look like he just fell.
No, but it's something I heard something popped.
Oh, it did?
So it was actually severe. It was really, really severe. And
Okay.
that was the last thing Indiana needed. But now Kevin Kirby is like, how soon until the NBA comes back? They're saying like as soon as like 2028, but now someone's saying 2030. That's what I've heard. But I can't really, I just don't have like an actual like, I just don't have any kind of an honest update. I mean, I just don't know. Like we can't, I just cannot promise. I don't want to be the one to say, oh, it's going to happen, but then it doesn't happen. Like, I mean, look at Gary Payton. Sonics legend Gary Payton kept saying, we'll get a team in 2011. We'll get a team in 2013. We'll get a team sometime in 2020. We'll get a team sometime in 2025. And it's 2025 and it hasn't happened.
Yeah. So for me, I have a couple things. So there's one argument that Adam Silver could still make right now, which is, okay, we have to wait to see the sale of the Portland Trailblazers and see how much that costs. I can see that to be the last argument he can make, because after that team sells, you can't stretch it out and say we have to wait for another team to sell to make another argument for what the cost of the team is, because having 3 teams would be enough to make an argument. Even with 2 teams, it's enough to make an argument of who should actually how much the team should cost. You know what I mean? So that would be the last thing I could think of, is waiting on the sale of that. But beyond that, and if this process does, so I would say that, and if you think about it, it's like the only thing I could think of is if Adam Silver was kind of didn't care, or he wanted to go a different direction, choosing a different market than the 2 markets that he was actually thinking about. But I don't think that would be great, because I'm like I've heard rumors of like, why would you want to? But they said rumors of like Mexico City. I'm like, why would you go to Mexico City? Travel time just makes it the league worse. And is there even a fan base for NBA there? I don't know, or like you could say something like, oh, like a Louisville or something like that, or something in like the Midwest or something like that area with another team there. But I'm like, isn't it already kind of congested there with teams already? So I don't know. And so you think about it, it's like we are one of the more primed areas, and you wouldn't want to go to like a place like, go to San Diego, where teams are leaving San Diego. You had a football team leave there and stuff like that. So you really did. So where would you go potentially? So I would say like him making up arguments to make other cities sound better than our city would be kind of really hard to do, I think, right now.
It's going to be up to.
So that's what I'm thinking.
It's going to be up to whoever is willing to put up that price. But I actually have a funny video to show. It was about some Sonics fan pretending that he was on a time machine. He's like, I'm coming from 2005. So he went into the future, and he's like, where's my basketball team? So I will show that right now. I thought I'd show it to you. Here it is.
Went to the NBA Finals, and shit changed because the Seattle SuperSonics don't exist no more. So now I'm in OKC to see what the hell happened to my team.
Need help finding anything?
Yeah, I was trying to figure out what happened to Rashard Lewis. Y'all know who that is? Y'all got that number 34, Ray Allen?
We got Kendrick Williams.
Who? Kendrick Williams? What he do, man?
He's one of our backups on our bench. For our Thunder, the actual Thunder.
Oh, my God, man. Dang, man. What about Jerome James? Y'all know what Jerome James is? This that Diddley Shrimp Thunder jersey? It's a different dimension for real, man. I time traveled 20 years to.
I did like the Detlef Schrempf part. That one was my favorite. And I also liked how everyone was like, I don't know, but can you really blame these Oklahoma people? Of course they're not going to know what happened in Seattle. Actually, what was your favorite part of that video?
Well, I think it's just like, I get the joke he was trying to play and stuff like that, where it's like, if most Oklahoma City fans, were they really watching basketball besides maybe college basketball, they wouldn't know much of the Sonics culture at all. So like having this weird shared history is even weird for them. They don't want the history either. So I don't like Clay Bennett should have just left the history here.
I think he did it for franchise value. I think it was all about money, because that's the only. Because if he has the history as part of his team, I think that helps the value of the team. But I don't think it should matter because Baltimore Ravens, they left Cleveland Browns history behind. Who else left it? What's another team that left a history behind? I guess the Tennessee Titans. No, I think Tennessee Titans kept their history from the Houston Oilers.
Mm-hmm. So I have this interesting proposal. So think about this as how do you think about this? Let's say we get a team in like 2028. Let's say that's the start of the regular season is 2028. Let's say we get a expansion team. Would you want Kevin Durant to be on the roster? Okay. And then on top of this, would you want Brandon Roy to be the coach of the Sonics?
No, let's not get into that here. Let me show another funny, funny video. This is actually.
Wouldn't that be cool? Having all these people come back.
No, if he's good at his job, yes. But here's another video regarding like expansion. This was like the last expansion update.
Level person NBA today, and they said it's leaning towards perhaps expansion coming soon this summer, but it's not a no-brainer. You know, when the owners come in, all the numbers going to come in with them, right? And the league's doing good. They're about to do the Europe thing. They're making money with NBA Africa, which had better attendance. China, they're making a bunch of money in China. So when you look at it, all these owners look at it, do you want to share a piece of the pie now?
Right.
It's like dominoes. It's all good money, good money. So they'll sit back and look at it because what it comes to, you go from 1/30th to 1/32nd long term. So you're cutting more a piece of the pie. So yeah, there's an expectation probably about a $6 billion for whatever that team comes in. But long term, is that worth the squeeze for the expansion and the teams? Talk to a high.
Yeah, that's what we're going to be up against. Unfortunately, that there is going to be talk about the whole revenue share, talent dilution. Like, how concerned are you? Like, do you feel concerned that there may be hurdles for Seattle to get an NBA team through expansion?
So I don't think that should be that much of a concern because look at this. The football, the NFL is 32 teams. Hockey is 32 teams. If other leagues can sustain a 32-team formula, how much of that is an argument for the NBA not being 32 teams? That's just them being selfish. Because think about this. At the end of the day, they can make the same amount of money. Let's say they get the same deals. They can make the same amount of money. And let's say the piece of the pie doesn't change. They still get the same money gross. You know what I mean? Because let's say the TV deal or whatever deal they have in place, they just add on the 2 extra teams and say, hey, these 2 teams, we're just going to pay the same rate for all the other teams that we pay for you 2 teams. Then it doesn't matter. The only thing that kind of would matter is if the TV deals or any other deals with money get split like that 2 extra ways. But if you're able to still make up that money and still get paid the same amount of money, it's not going to matter. You see what I'm saying? So I guess it's going to be very minute dollars.
And are you concerned about the talent dilution argument? Because when you have expansion, that means less quality players will get to be able to play in the NBA.
I don't think that's a talent delusion because there's so many good basketball players out there. And think about this. Okay, at most, it's maybe 15 players on a team. Let's say 13 on average. That's 26 extra players. That's nothing.
And so do you think because the last time the whole expansion thing was criticized was NBA Canada, when those 2 teams were added, and it got to the point where people were saying that was the reason why Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls were so dominant because of all these bad expansion teams, which I find it to be very absurd because all the other teams took advantage of those bad teams. So I think they're all just excuses. And here's my message to you, NBA owners. If you can't build a winning NBA team, then you have no business running an NBA team. So this whole talent dilution is just an excuse on if you think your team is not that good at all.
So
I heard about that too. LeBron James was having interest of owning an expansion team. I've heard about that, and Vegas would be the favorite. And I think the favorite for NBA for Seattle for the SuperSonics would possibly be the owners of the Kraken. They are the rumored favorite.
So here's an interesting one. It says that maximum players on an NBA roster can be 15, but then you can also have 2 additional two-way players, which kind of do the basically go to the G League and kind of play NBA and G League. So at most that's 17. Okay, so 17 times, now you're talking about 30 teams. That is 510 players. Well, let's think about this. Okay, so if you have 17, so that's 34. That's 34 more players. Okay, you're 34 more players. You're adding to the league at most. Okay, out of 510. So that's another you're adding what to 510. That's about what 6.7%.
So you don't think
more
it should
players.
be? You don't think it should be that big of a deal?
6.7% more players, less than 10% more players you're adding to the league. Is that a lot?
No, but
delusion?
there's going to be, there's going to be owners out there that are going to gripe. And you know what? I think the ones that are going to complain about it are the owners of the bad teams. Because do you think the owners of the good teams are going to care?
No, because it's less than 10% of it of a widening of the players and for 2 teams. That's nothing, And so percentage wise, that shouldn't affect them at all too much. And if you are a good team, you can compete. Yeah, teams that are bad right now, like you said, might be upset because they're like, hey, I can't compete because my team's not good enough. Well, it's hey, most expansion teams aren't great when they start out anyway. So you should be better than most expansion teams anyway. It was a fluke that the Vegas Golden Knights were so good, in that expansion. But beyond most other expansions, look at the Bobcats. Have they ever been good? They're now the Hornets.
Way I see it too, I think it's doing the contenders and all those mid teams a favor because when those teams are just starting out, I'm not saying they're free wins, but at least there's another game that you can at least look forward to and not worry about too much. Now, I'm not saying underestimate your opponent, but sometimes free wins is a thing, and it could be a boost sometimes.
Yeah, because you think about it, most expansion teams aren't going to be great right off the bat. It's a fluke if some of them are good and stuff like that. But even at best, you're going to assume they're mediocre, and it's that. The teams that are good or mediocre teams could beat them, and so all these people want to make excuses, so they don't, like you said, they don't want to share the piece of the pie to somebody. How much more do they have to share? Not that much more. And it's if people don't accept Seattle, it's just them being, and they don't accept Vegas. It's they don't want us to be big city teams. Look at this. Seattle has every other sport. If you don't want to accept Seattle or Vegas as a team, why do they have every other sport and you're not going to give them basketball? That's just you being mean because every other league has accepted them. You're just being petty. NBA is kind of almost being petty.
And it's all over something that happened 20 years ago when our politics didn't even have it together at the time. And I don't think it would be fair. And plus, it's not even fair to the fans. We had nothing to do with bad politics, unless you want to go as far as we didn't vote in the right people. But how much can we really control that? What about, Frank Chop, he shouldn't be much of a factor. We have a mayor that is at least motivated to bring back an NBA team. When the Sonics left Seattle, we had a mayor who literally didn't care, and his name was Greg Nichols. Now, Kevin Kirby saying, I think when they vote, it should be majority, not needing 22 votes. I know that is for sale, typically. I am curious, if it has to be. I'm not sure.
I think it has to be majority. I think it has to be majority of the league to want expansion.
But the question is it simple majority or is it 20 plus majority? That is the question.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is if they let Charlotte get an expansion team after moving to New Orleans, then that is hypocritical if they don't give the Sonics one.
Oh, we should have been given an expansion team years ago. We should have been given one when we built our new stadium.
Yes.
Or we should have been given one when Soto was at least approved at the time.
You know who I think in this whole situation? NHL. They've been so nice to us for giving us an expantion team, for building a new stadium.
They were waiting for us to build a stadium for years. They wanted to
I know.
be in that
they wanted us
market
so badly. They have been such a nice to invite us into their league. People have been so gracious, and like people are actually supporting the team.
But the
really
NBA
great.
is kind of just being condescending at best. That's the vibe I get out of Adam Silver. He's like, "Oh yeah, you guys were a great market, but we don't really know yet." But it is progress, I guess, in some ways, that he is trying to get expansion back on the table. It's just a matter of, can he convince his owners? Now, we're about an hour into the show, and it looks like we're not getting anyone else to vent. I think people have already moved on, I guess, from Oklahoma City Thunder winning the NBA Finals. But I thought I'd give some advice for us Sonics fans. So hear me out on this and wait till I'm done. I'll tell you when I'm done. So Sonics fans, I understand it hurts that we lost our basketball team and our basketball and that Thunder won the NBA championship. But here's my advice to all of you. What I would say is, don't even say screw Howard Schultz. Don't even say screw Greg Nichols. Don't even say screw Clay Bennett. Don't even say anything like that. Screw the Thunder. They stole our team. Blah, blah, blah. I think our biggest focus for us fans is to focus on the expansion news. And I think we as fans should put it out in social media, put it out on TikTok, put it out on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter X, YouTube, whatever, and tell the whole world that you want an NBA team back to Seattle. I think that is much more productive than say, oh, Oklahoma took our team. Oh, Howard Schultz sold our team away. Oh, we suck, or we're cursed. No, I think we should move forward, not clean out any of that negativity, and think about what us fans can do to pressure the NBA to grant us that expansion team. I know there's this whole cliche of like, let the billionaires take care of it. Let the rich guys do it. But also, how about many of us Sonics fans? Why not us? How about we do show the NBA that we do want it? Like, my idea is this. We go to Vegas, because I heard that's where the rumored meetings are going to be around the same time with the whole Vegas basketball league. We should all, as Sonics fans, the day of that meeting, wherever it is, go to the front of the building, or at least go inside the lobby, show up as Sonics fans, and put ourselves on the cameras and show everyone how much we want an NBA team. Don't you think that sounds... And now I have a question for you for this, Epic C. Don't you think that sounds a bit more productive than saying, oh, screw Oklahoma, screw Howard Schultz, screw Greg Nichols? Which one sounds more productive? The first idea or the number two?
Well, okay. The second idea might persuade a few more, maybe a couple more people. But if people already have their minds made up, that's not going to help much, you know? So I feel like it's like we could do all this work and stuff like that. But the main thing is how can you convince the owners of the teams to allow for expansion to happen? And how do we meet those people? It's more about getting their attention than anything else.
What I think is, at this point, it would be spreading awareness. Because in years past, while the Oklahoma City Thunder were playing the Miami Heat in the NBA Finals, I didn't even watch the games. I watched like maybe 2 of those games, but not the whole thing. Do you know exactly what I was doing during those NBA Finals? Take a guess what I was doing.
Bring back our Sonics?
I was all about that Bring Back Our Sonics cause. I was on Facebook promoting it. I think the only mistake I made was I just didn't have a YouTube channel, but I was very camera shy. I didn't know what to do. But at least on social media, I was very active about it. I went to all those meetings. I did everything I could. I even helped with the whole Soto thing in 2016, although that was a disaster. And I got to see a really bad vote. And I got to see the council members run like their agenda against Seattle men's basketball because they were like, well, we have the Seattle Storm. But the thing is that they weren't paying attention to most WNBA fans are
NBA fans.
Exactly. So I thought that was very ignorant of council members like Deborah Juarez saying, whoa, you got to get over the Sonics. We have the Seattle Storm. Oh, guess what? We're already watching the Storm. I mean, don't we watch the Storm like once in a while, almost like once a year?
Yeah, I watch more games than that. Sometimes I watch them on TV.
Exactly. So there's that. But here's the thing, Kevin. There is an opportunity. On Saturday, I think it's around noon, at Climate Pledge Arena, there's going to be a very special ceremony for the great Lenny Wilkens. Now, quiz question, Epic C, who is Lenny Wilkens?
A player and a coach for the Seattle SuperSonics.
And true or false, he helped got the Seattle SuperSonics their first ever NBA championship.
True, he got our first championship. Yep.
He did, and he's getting a statue for it. And, of course, all of his great works with the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Atlanta Hawks, the Toronto Raptors with young Vince Carter, and even had a little run with the Stephon Marbury New York Knicks. So I think that's going to be the first great step. Head over to Climate Pledge Arena. I would say get there at around 11. I'm going to get there at 11. I think we're going to have a breakfast together, Epic C Films, around that area. We're thinking about it. I'm probably going to go, nah, we'll just meet there. And I think that will be a first great step. I think we should all show up in masses as Sonics fans to show how much we want an NBA team. Because what would you rather do? Would you rather try to rally for an expansion team or just say, oh, screw Oklahoma, they stole our team in our 2025 championship? Which one sounds better?
Rallying.
Rally. Because true or false, can we all agree that hating on Oklahoma for winning a championship and, quote, taking our team, is that productive at this point?
Well, so I think one of the things that some people, and I think what you're alluding to, is that you shouldn't be bitter. And so that, because bitterness never solves problems.
Yeah, I just don't think that complaining about Oklahoma, because I don't think complaining about a team is going to give us a team back anytime soon. And Oklahoma doesn't really have interest to move back here anyway. So we can't really talk about something that happened in 2008 anymore. I know there's fans that still hang on to it. Like sometimes I do. But most of the time, I'm all about trying to see what we can do to get an NBA team back. And that's one of my regrets of my YouTube channel was I didn't tap into that whole Sonics market because I was just so in tune into baseball. And I think Epic C Films, I think at some points you were like, hey, maybe you should try other sports. Like maybe try some NBA or NFL. And I kind of ignored you on that for like almost a year. And now here I am doing a show about Seattle SuperSonics. I've made some videos. And I do have plans for videos of the future. And I'm going to work on some YouTube shorts after this ends. So, but yeah, I think that's my advice is any key events that are coming up and pay attention to all those updates. And if you have cameras, put them out there. Put them out there on TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, everything so we can spread awareness so that how much we want an NBA team. Because that's all we want, right? Is to get an NBA team back.
Yeah. And like the thing like I've told you before is when you focus on the Mariners for a long time, you were very niche, and even like with me, C Films, that stands for Seattle Films. On my website, my actual slogan is 6 Degrees of Seattle. It's you want to have a niche, but you want to be too niche, because when you're too niche, you don't reach enough people to actually like want to consume your content. And so now that you've expanded, I think it's been so much better since you've expanded because you have all these different avenues that you can actually talk about. Because you have gaps during the season. You know, Mariners aren't 24/7 every day of the year.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think baseball season, Mariners, obviously.
Yeah.
And with a little bit of softball, because I think you see some of my softball clips there and there.
Mm-hmm.
But what about like during the NBA season? Like as long as the expansion talks are still strong and going, my goal is I want to do an NBA game at least once a week. I think that's a pretty good, healthy consistency of picking a random NBA game that's probably national TV and just do it. I want to go to an NBA game once a year, and I'm definitely going to be dressed up in Sonics gear. And the funny thing is, one of my goals, actually, I want to go to Oklahoma in this gear as well, and I want you to come with me too. But we'll figure it out. But until then, I would say, as I'm about to sign off, let's go to that Lenny Wilkens event. Let's show how much we love him and how much we thanked him for getting our NBA championship. Now, granted, I was not alive when it happened, of course, but hey, it's still in our history. We still have the trophy. Clay Bennett didn't take it from us. He just took our team. He did do it legally, by the way. He did do it legally. But there we are. Let's go to the Lenny Wilkens event. Let's network as us Sonics fans. Let's bring us all together. And eventually, maybe someday, we'll go to Vegas. We'll go to those key NBA meetings. Now, do we have to go to the meeting ourselves? No, because they're not going to allow us.
Yeah.
But should we at least be outside the doors and be like holding signs up and taking pictures? I'm all for it.
Well, one thing I like to say a lot of times, I say, you learn from the past, you look to the future, but you try to live in the moment.
Yep. And here's the other thing I've also learned when I was at UW Bothell. What was it? I forgot what it was. But, here it is. Think globally, act locally.
Yep.
Now, here's the thing. Now, if you're stuck on your 9-to-5 jobs, or if you're trying to build a business and you just don't have the time, fine. But at least type it on the computer and say, bring back our Sonics there and there. And repost some of our videos at least. Because I do have Sonics content coming in the future. And although Mariners baseball season is going on, I do think Thunder winning the NBA championship, and you combine that with Adam Silver's planned expansion meeting talks, I think Sonic's name is going to be hot, because there's a part of me that actually believes that had Oklahoma lost the NBA championship, I think the name would have all waned out. Actually, do you think it would have been any different? Like, do you think the Sonics fans would have gotten more attention had Oklahoma lost, or do you think it would have been the same?
I think it would have been talked about either way and stuff like that. But it's going to be interesting to see the timing of if they actually do bring out more news about the expansion team, because I think the next big thing that the NBA has to deal with is the draft. Once the draft's done, then they might bring out some news about it during like maybe July or something like that at the earliest.
July is the projected, but I would say until then, I would say the next goal for Sonics fans, mark your calendars, June 27th at around, June 28th on Saturday. I think I said 27th the entire time. It's going to be 27th, 28th, and let me double check that with the messages I have through my Sonics friends. I'm going to look it up right now. It's going to be 28th at noon. I'm going to be there I'm going to try to get there an hour early. So Epic Sea Films, I'll see you there. And hopefully any of my fans that tune into the show, I'll see you there. And Epic Sea Films, I just want to say thank you very much for being on this show. And Seattle Chris, bring back our Sonics, bleeping Sonics. Yep, Kevin Kirby, thanks for engaging. Molly Anderson, thank you. And anyone else that was in it, Reese Beast, congratulations on your Thunder. It's still odd that you're a Mariners fan and a Thunder fan, but hey, everyone has their preferences. What about Chris Welton? Thank you for being on the show. It's BDS. Thank you for being here. Daniel Barry, congratulations on your NBA championship. And everyone else, thank you for being on the show. And Epic Sea Films, do you have any final advice?
Yes. Don't drink, don't smoke, and live life.
And I got one more last message. Bring back our Seattle SuperSonics. Super
Sonics!
There we go. Everyone have a good night, and let me play that nostalgic outro video as I am ending the stream